That song that we just heard by Simone Waddell was off an album called Unforgettable, and you're never going to guess what. When I say the magic word, hopefully Simone Waddell's going to say hello. Hello, Simone.
Hello, Neil. How are you? How are you?
It's always an enormous relief to hear the guest at the other end say hello.
Yes, I'm absolutely here and very excited to be talking to you.
You need to get out more quite clearly if you're excited about talking to me. Hey, Simone, you're currently in Brisbania, I believe.
That's right. I flew up today. I'm performing tomorrow and very much looking forward to it. I'm doing my live show, Great Ladies of Jazz, up here.
That seems like an appropriate thing for you to be performing in, I would have thought. Are you by yourself in terms of the Great Ladies of Jazz, or are you accompanied by another Great Lady of Jazz?
I'm actually accompanied by a wonderful young gentleman, John Reeves, who is a jazz pianist up here in Brisbane.
Yep.
And I flew up today to perform tomorrow. So, yes, very much looking forward to it.
I mean this in a caring, loving and supportive way, you understand, because you and I are mates, I hope we could say that. Jazz is not really the first go-to for a lot of people in terms of music. Tell me a bit about the audience you get. Is it young people? Is it old people? Is it a mixture? What's the go with the audience in a place like that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. When it comes to jazz, I find that some people, they might think it's a bit of an intimidating word at times. However, I love to create jazz that's accessible to people and doesn't feel intimidating and just feels beautiful. And the stories are there, and the wonderful music and songs and performances are something that I think it's important that the average person can access that jazz and not feel that they're, left out of what's going on. So the demographic is, it's all very different, and I think it depends on each person's musical taste. But what I have found, Neil, is that a lot of people, once they start listening, they do say, "Wow, I really do like this," because they can hear the musicality is strong and songs that they know and love.
Because I think the other thing is too, and you may not see the parallel here, but just run with me on it, and I promise I'll bring it back to something that makes sense. If you think about country music, when I was growing up, country music was country and western, and it was embarrassing to say that you enjoyed country and western. And now you look at country music, and there's alt country, and there's Americana country, and there's all sorts of stuff. When I was growing up, my mother and father force-fed me Graham Bell's Dixieland jazz to the point where if I saw that word that had one J and two Zs in it, I would run for the hills. But jazz is a bit the same, isn't it? There is, I guess there's still some Dixieland trad stuff going on, but there's, the more modern jazz. Jazz is a really big catch-all.
Oh, absolutely, and it's getting bigger. It's getting the banner of what is considered jazz these days is getting broader and broader and broader. And I do recall listening to an album that won a Grammy in I think it was 2013 by Diane Reeves called Beautiful Life. And I remember hearing it and hearing R&B and hearing funk and hearing so many different sounds. And that's been happening for a little while, where jazz is just really getting quite broad. So yes, it's the bosses and the sambas and the swings that we know, but it's also acceptable to most definitely include like funk sounds and R&B sounds and to sort of mix it all up. And the key for jazz is that things are improvised and they're a little bit different, and you're on the fly a little bit when you're performing. So that's one of the really fun things about performing jazz, is that it's very different to, say, musical theatre, which you really need to honour exactly what the composer has written and perform as written. But when it comes to jazz, you would know what the composer has written, yet you would be able to reinvent along the way as well. So that's one of the exciting great things about the concept of jazz and jazz music.
So if I drop a name, do you promise to bend down and pick it up?
Depends on who it is.
Well, I was talking to Brian Cadd a little while ago, and he released an album called Dream Train, which is more country than you can poke a stick at, to be perfectly honest. You know it's a country album. And I said to Brian, what defines country versus rock and roll? And his response was, country tells a story, right? Now, Paul Kelly tells a story. I wouldn't call him country, but let's run with that definition. This album is full of songs that people would know, Just the Way You Are, Windmills of Your Mind, Still Crazy After All These Years, The Way We Were, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, What the World Needs Now Is Love. What makes this version of those songs jazz compared with, say, Billy Joel sitting in front of a piano and playing Just the Way You Are? What's the defining thing that says jazz?
A few things. So the instrumentation, firstly, and who is playing it, and the style and the genre that those players normally play in. So we have grand piano, upright bass, and drum kit as the foundation. And if we're adding trumpets and percussion and vocals that have a more jazz, funk, R&B kind of sound, then it already the instrumentation. But also another thing about jazz, which I personally love, is that chords, when we're talking about the harmony, that the chords often have what we call extensions or accidentals, which is extra like sharps and flats in it. So the chord won't have a simple 1, 3, 5 primary triad. There'll be some extra notes in there, extra colours, extra flavours, and same with whatever's happening rhythmically. So in Melbourne is where the trio is from, Paul Grabowski, Philip Rex on double bass, and David Jones, the absolute master legend drummer, on drums. And so you can hear in their playing the freedom and the interpretations. So it's very much about the harmony and the instrumentation, and then the style and the expression as well. Now, it's absolutely true what Brian said, that country tells a story, but ideally lots of genres in music would tell a story, because jazz also tells a story, and pop can tell a story, and rock can tell a story. So ideally music and folk can tell a story.
Yeah,
classical tells a story, you know.
I threw banjo and slide guitar at him, and he went, "Yeah, I suppose a bit of that too."
Yeah, look, definitely instrumentation separates the genres somewhat, and even certain rhythms and harmony and things like that separate and define various genres. For this particular album, it is American songbook songs that have all been reimagined and interpreted in the jazz idiom, but not, as I said earlier, they're not. It's not so complex and strange that it's inaccessible, and that's what I love about doing these versions, where it's something that anybody can enjoy. And these songs are so iconic and so timeless. Just the Way You Are, I mean, what a cracker of a song. And so I created it as a duet and got the wonderful Greg Arthur to perform with me, and that's the opening track. And it's just wonderful. And Warwick Alder playing trumpet on that one. And The Way We Were, such an iconic, beautiful song and melody, with so much nostalgia for me and many others, that these songs go way back for us. So it's wonderful songs like that, and the melodies are very much preserved. I think that's important as well, Neil, to create new versions, but to certainly preserve the integrity of the original piece, and then just create it in a fresh way, but still keeping that melody very clear throughout.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, the source material, if you will, needs to match the opportunity to do that. For example, I can't imagine you doing a jazz interpretation of Down, Down, Deeper Go Down by Status Quo, for example. It's not really got the structure that you would need.
Yeah, well, this set of songs was suggested. Well, the American Songbook itself was suggested by Robert Rigby, and I work with his label, Ambition Music, which is absolutely wonderful, and Robert is fantastic. And he said, "Why don't you do some songs from the Great American Songbook?" So I chose 10 songs that I really wanted to do. And some I had sung before and some were new to me, even though I'd heard them before, but I hadn't performed them or recorded them before. So I took my time to really think about what songs I'd want to put on the album. And I'm really pleased with every single one of them. I just think they're all a great journey and a great musical journey, each one, and a great journey as an album in itself as well. And by the way, Neil, in the debut week, this album debuted at number 2 on the ARIA Jazz and Blues charts, and then number 4 in Australia for the top 10 Australian albums, which is mighty for jazz, especially for independent jazz. It's incredible.
Having a copy of it in front of me, which incidentally, folks, I bought. A number of people come and go, yeah, of course you're going to say. I actually did buy this one. I've got a nice little message on the front with love from Simone, kiss, kiss.
That's right. Straight to you, Neil. And thank you. Thank you for doing that, because sometimes what people don't understand these days is that buying the album, actually buying the CD, really makes a difference for the Australian artist. And it shows that's how the charts can reflect, because the purchase is made. And so many people these days obviously listen digitally, and that's fine and that's great, and we want that as well, of course. But if anybody is able to buy the CD, it makes a huge difference to us, because the industry is just changing so rapidly. And if we want Australian artists to keep making music, we definitely need to continue to get behind them and actually value the music and the product and the merch and the whole lot, so we can keep having the quality music in Australia, which I think is so vitally important. So I really appreciate that you did that, Neil, and that you bought the CD, which is, and I hope everybody listening does the same.
Well, I think I've got this great concept that I don't know Mr. Spotify, Mr. Apple, or Mr. Amazon are going to embrace warmly, but I've got an idea that what should happen is there should be a streaming service that says you can stream any song you like 3 times. After that, we hit your account for $5 for that song, or $2 or whatever. Yeah. So that, because the great thing about streaming is how many times you're significantly younger than I am, but but when I was going down the street, you'd buy an album in the mid 70s, and you get it home, and the first track is the one you heard on the radio, and you go, how good's this? And the other 13 were absolute dreadful crap. So that's why streaming is good, because you can actually listen to the album and go, yeah, actually, I wouldn't mind buying this. This is a good album. But where I was going with that is I am unsurprised that this album landed where it did on the charts in the first week, because it's a really, really good album. And I'm not saying that because you're on the other end of the phone. I've said that to other people. It's a really good album. And if you are a person like me who I've got probably, 1,000 CDs at home, of which now 2 of them are jazz CDs. The other one was The Art of Collaboration by Simone Waddell, which I also bought. To me, this is a really good way to get into trying a little bit of jazz. It's a bit like I was dragged along kicking and screaming to the ballet once. Don't take me to a ballet I don't understand. Take me to a ballet like Swan Lake or something like that, where I can at least understand what's going on. Well, it's a bit the same with this sort of album. It's a ripper, and if you love music and you're thinking, I wouldn't mind a bit of jazz, but I don't know where to start, this is a really good place to start, would be my observation.
Oh, that's a great way of explaining it, Neil. Absolutely. And that really was my goal. Like, as I said, to make it accessible and not put it over in some corner where things are in strange time signatures and big long solos and just so complex and hard. Even though that music is very artistic and absolutely has its place, I just love vocal jazz where the melodies are there and the songs are beautiful and the playing is top quality. And that's why I loved creating this album so much, because it is such a beautiful set of songs by some of the best composers in the world, like Paul Simon, like Michel Legrand, like amazing songs.
Yep.
And, just played with such quality and such wonderful musicians. And I'm all about putting a spotlight on great musicians and great songs and just doing everything with it. It's just excellent from top to bottom, and it's getting 5-star reviews and great results in the ARIA charts and so much wonderful feedback, and like it just makes it all so worthwhile to keep producing amazing music with the wonderful musicians that we have here in Australia.
Well, recognising we probably shouldn't waste your voice much longer given that you have to sing tomorrow, let me just take a moment to acknowledge the great work that Robert Rigby does. You've already talked about him. Robert is, folks, you'll recall that I've spoken to Karen Keys on this program. I've spoken to Jonathan English on this program. Now we've got Simone. Robert is an independent record label owner in Brisbane. It's called Ambition Records. He works with people like Russell Morris, but he also introduces artists. Nathan Lay, I interviewed him. He's a young fellow who's an opera singer who's done an album about World War II and World War I songs. Patsy and Dave, they're a Melbourne-based country duo. James Blundell he works with. So there's a whole stack of Australian artists he's working with, putting out CDs, sometimes new albums like this one, but he's also putting out re-releases of, for example, John English, a couple of his albums. He's just doing a ripping job. So support people like that, because without that, the Australian music industry is pushing what uphill with a pointy stick, and that's not going to help anyone. You can find out all about him at greatmusiclivesforever.com. Great Music Lives Forever. On there, you will find an album, what is called Unforgettable by Simone Waddell, and I would recommend you buying it, not streaming it. Stream it if you want to, but buy a copy first. That would be the way I'd tackle it. What say you?
Yes, I completely agree with that. GreatMusicLivesForever.com. You will find Unforgettable there, and it gets posted to you. And it's only $30, including the postage, which is an absolute bargain. And that does really help the artist, the label, and as we know, in these times, the arts are, needed more than ever, really needed more than ever. So this is wonderful music, and it's a really worthy purchase.
Well, we are going to play a song which someone, when I played it on another station the other day, suggested that it was actually written about me, because the song's called Still Crazy After All These Years. I think it's a bit unfair, isn't it? Probably accurate, but unfair nonetheless. Simone Waddell, people can find out more about you, I suspect, at simonewaddell.com.
Absolutely.
And they can buy music at Great Music Lives Forever. Thank you for joining us tonight. All the very best with your trip to Brisbane and your performance tomorrow. And here is Simone Waddell and Still Crazy After All These Years.